P&P News is found as a tyrant. He's found as a tyrant employed by the Dayton Police Department. I don't necessarily disagree with him, but this particular tyrant is fully within the law in what he did, and the auditor did not understand the law, period. Some places where the auditor fails, he fails to understand that just because property is owned by a public agency but they're holding it open to the public doesn't mean they're holding it open for everything. Adderley v. Florida. The state, no less than the private owner of property, has power to preserve the property under its control for the use to which it is lawfully dedicated. So they don't have to let you do whatever you want on those police department premises. You don't get to violate their policies and rules just because you want to. And if you do try to maybe sue for a violation of your First Amendment rights for not being allowed to film in their parking lot, then you would have to prove that their regulation or policy against allowing you to film police or the private cars of police officers is unreasonable, and you would have to prove that it's not viewpoint neutral. And I have a sneaking suspicion that a court will hold that the police officers, it's reasonable for the police department to prevent people from monitoring the vehicles of police officers. I have a sneaking suspicion that a court would hold that. So the next big fail is he thinks that you can't be trespassed from a public place. This is 2911.21 criminal trespass for the great state of Ohio, and it is no defense to a charge under this section that the land or premises involved was owned, controlled, or in custody of a public agency. Now, another way he fails is he believes that he has to be told to leave before he can be trespassed. He doesn't understand what trespass is. He's told that he's going to be trespassed. That means he's going to be, that what this officer is going to do is he's going to take down the guy's name and phone number so they have a record, or name and ID, whatever. So they have a record that this guy is no longer allowed on this property except if he has an emergency. That's being trespassed. If an owner tells you to get off his property, you are being trespassed. You're not guilty of criminal trespass unless you violated the trespassing statute, and a lot of times that means you let's see, what is it? Negligently remain being on the land or premises of another, negligently fail or refuse to leave upon being notified by signage posted in a conspicuous place, or otherwise being notified to do so by the owner or occupant or agent or servant of either. So if you're told to leave and you fail to leave, being told to leave is being trespassed. Failing to leave would, under Part 4, make you criminally liable for criminal trespass. Now, so the way this works is there are 4 basic ways you can be liable for criminal trespass, that you can be found guilty of criminal trespass, that you can be charged with criminal trespass in Ohio. If you don't have privilege to enter or remain on the land or premises of another, you could be charged with and found guilty of criminal trespass. Well, he had privilege to be in that parking lot. He had privilege. He no longer has privilege to be in that parking lot. But he had privilege to be in that parking lot, so that didn't apply. Without having privilege to do so, knowingly enter or remain on the land or premises of another, the use for which is lawfully restricted to certain persons, purposes, modes, or hours. I think this may be where the auditor runs into problem in the first place. He may be in violation of this, and he would have to be told that he can't be on that property for that purpose, and he was. The officer said, "We don't want you on our parking lot, in our parking lot, taking pictures of our personal vehicles," to which the auditor, instead of leaving, said, "I'm in the public parking lot. I can be here and take pictures of your vehicles." That's not a winning strategy. Or, without privilege to do so, recklessly enter or remain on the land or premises of another, as to which notice against unauthorized access or presence is given by actual communication to the offender, etc. And I don't believe that this would apply. Now, had he tried to go in to that fenced-in area, then this would apply. But he didn't, so I don't believe this applied. But then number 4, without privilege to do so, being on the land or premises of another, negligently fail or refuse to leave upon being notified to do so by the owner or occupant or agent or servant of either. Once the police officer said, "You're being trespassed, we're going to trespass you," and he failed to leave. Actually, once the police officer said, basically, "You can't do that on this property," and failing to leave probably violated it as well. So there's probably 2 ways they could skin this cat. But anyway, you slice it. The auditor needs to figure out that being trespassed is not the same thing as being arrested for criminal trespass. They're 2 totally different things. Now, as far as the ID is concerned, 2921.29, failure to disclose personal information. No person who's in a public place shall refuse to disclose a person's name, address, or date of birth when requested by a law enforcement officer who reasonably suspects either of the following. Number 1, the person is committing or has committed or is about to commit a criminal offense. Right there, bada boom, bada bing. The officer reasonably suspected the auditor was committing, was about to commit, or had committed criminal trespass. So he gets to ID him. I'm going to assume that because he could arrest, the search is probably going to be okay. If it's not okay, it's not something that you're gonna win big dollary dues on suing over. I guess you could, but I don't think it's going to be a huge payout game. And if you do sue over it, you may well actually get arrested for trespass, because I do believe that there is at least probable cause in this video that criminal trespass took place. So that's a little bit of Ohio trespassing law for you, and Ohio stop and ID law for you, and a little bit more Adderley v. Florida, because you just can't have enough Adderley v. Florida in your life. If you know, understand, and love Adderley v. Florida and your state and local trespassing laws, your life as an auditor will probably be much, 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 much easier, and you won't have to wear all those nasty silver bracelets and have guys pat your balls to see if you have a weapon or ID in there. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.